joint.
Cool, I just saw you pop up a second.
Now can I share screen? Oh, you don't want to see that, do you? You need to see my. Oh, there's the calendar. Oh, here it is. That's the one. That. Oh, this will be fun. I've already done this before, so I hope everybody's. There you go. Oh, thank you. I know you will. I know you will be, but.
Nice.
You like an agenda, Eddie? No, there's a lot of attachments.
Just letting you know it's up on YouTube and it's up on Facebook and I've logged in as Teams.
Okay.
So you're all sorted, I think. And it's recording to restream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so many things.
Asking a question today? Gives me something to try. Thanks.
I have one question about wanting to restream. There's nothing in the training session we did about that. Does it record? Do you think maybe via restream it records onto the YouTube channel and Facebook channel so that people can watch it back?
See, what I normally do is tomorrow morning, I go into Restream and I get the video recording, the open part of the workshop, and I load it onto our website.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Because there's only one button available to me here, which is just go live. And I click that, so it's streamed. That's what
It is. I can see it on Facebook and I can see it on
Yeah.
YouTube. So I'm assuming that it is doing it to Restream. It would be.
Yeah.
It'd have to be.
There's no other.
Because you're in Restream.
Yeah, there's no other button.
Yeah, because what I do is, like I said, I go in tomorrow morning and it says past videos, and I've got, I think I have something like 14 days. So I always do it first thing Tuesday morning. So I'll be in tomorrow at 7:30, and I get it and I grab it. And just the open portion of it, and then I put it up on the website. So yeah, I'd say it's all happening in the background. I don't know if it's inside. It must be. they've told you to do anything.
I'll have a little investigate as well.
Yeah.
But that-
So they did tell you when
Your
they say
system says,
the closed portion, sorry, the open portion is now finished. You know then to shut down Facebook and YouTube.
Basically, that ends this stream.
yeah, it's very, very,
Stream that comes up.
yeah.
That's good. Because they then have to have it recorded in the background, the closed portion, but we don't put that up on Facebook and I don't put that up on the website, but I do keep it and I do copy it to our file in the system. But nobody else can see it. Me and
Council's now.
I might actually ask what I could do it because I have to be in there taking minutes. But it would be good to know when there's, especially today, Tim's not here, you can't just like
Actually, trying to call Tim before, but that's the problem. He's not answering.
I think he's away.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great if there was another person. Anyway,
Did IT come and help you?
Yeah, but I'd already sorted out that. Yeah, so thanks for that.
Okay.
Well, I sort of got the impression between this one is once that's the impression I got. It's clean away the slides for any emotions.
You asked me.
Yeah, but it's good to see some.
Just call this day.
Certainly right direction. Yeah. Just to get people used to the idea of sharing something, it's easy stuff. Outdoors. No, I don't.
Oh!
I walked in, it was great.
I get my 30 seconds.
30 seconds, sir.
4, 3.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Glenorchy City Council meeting on Monday, the 28th of October 2024. I'm speaking with the Mayor of Glenorchy and Chairperson of this meeting. Glenorchy City as the original owner and continuing custodians of the land and waters of this island. We pay our respects to our elders past and present. We commit to working for a city that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Joining me here in Chambers today is Mr. Justice Councillor Potential, before we open our meeting, I want to take this opportunity to make a statement about the place where we stand. Not just the council takes the place of the safety seriously. This includes expected that everyone attends council will behave in a quiet and peaceful manner. Council has endorsed a statement of intent setting out our agreement in representing in accordance with the during the debate and we are ready to represent and serve the people of the North and to make us the best we can. Finally, I know that the open session is being live streamed and on audio visual recording members of the public are not permitted to make audio recordings of the meeting. We have 20 items on our agenda this afternoon, and the first one is apologies. We have apologies received from the Commissioner on this issue. Now I have two is confirmation of the minutes. Do I have something? Thank you very much. Take a show of hands, please, if I'm in favor. And now I move on to announcements from the chair. Firstly, I'd like to take a minute of silence in memory of the following, our colleague, Councillor Harry Cook, who passed on. I'm sure you'll all agree that Councillor Cook will be remembered for his passionate advocacy for the community. I think we take the moment of silence, a minute of silence now, stand, and then we have a report from
Thank you, Mayor. I normally don't stand here, but I will for Harry. Harry, this is not a eulogy, it's just a few words about being holding here. When I first met Harry Quick, when I was in grade 4, I was in primary school, and I was the football coach of the Glenorchy primary school football team for the year. And he had respect for me. You know, it was a later life as being Harry is a man that as a mentor to the you want people that have been incarcerated, you want people to reintroduce themselves in the community. There's a scout leader, a scout heavily involved in scouting. And he's involved in his church. He had a great, he always said to me, I went to the hospital 5 Tuesday down there for a 5 days. He said to me again, he would all want to be taken. He said, I don't think he wants to be
It's really disturbing. There's something going on in the background. You know, it's really
It's positive approach, constantly positive approach. And it was great example of these videos. But recent times when the cancer came to he was incredibly positive about that, and I guess we can all learn from that. First, the spot on his hand that then became removing his thumb and his hand. Then when he had his hand up, he said, no, I feel so good. But just at the hand of his tip, the pain's gone, and he was in a better place. He didn't have his face, and then he finally 4 days before we went to Adelaide and said, mate, it's dead. Although the kidneys, he was still going. And then he went to South Australia, he wasn't a sick man, he was there for the Headstone organisation he did great work for, in finding creating Headstones for soldiers. And his love of serving the community and was shone forth. He said, when I get back, I'll go and get treatment. And his girl told me, he said, she couldn't see him if he come back and give himself as well. But he just wanted to serve. And for that, I'm very grateful for his example. I guess I'll just say rest in peace, Harry. You deserve it.
Thanks. I've known Harry Quick since 1995. In my earlier days of involved in politics, sitting at these days, and he was linked to the Labor Party for the House of Frank and that particular year, he represented centre left of the Labor Party, which was always a discrete faction of the Labor Party. It's not like the group that sort of moved away from style. So I followed Harry's career through that. And I used to bump into different times and while I was on council, deputy mayor and whatever. And I just say to them, how do you do it, Harry? Why are you different? Well, they said, well, other people going out to functions and events and whatever. He said, I'm going out to school. I'm talking really good ones that really at the end of the day, the mum that's that's why I do it. Whether it be saying that he was involved with it, the certainly was a real the right time. No doubt about that. We like to have the carry bar, you know. But Harry, we had a long joke, which went back that all council animals that we hear, we used to have to take them over to the dog pound. So I was there, and I was told to come in all the time. And the person said, well, you know, Mr. Quick said that you're this person, dog owner, it's the county's responsibility, I'm an house representative's responsibility. So, sorry, CEO of the cars. And it's just a my life. So, straight we got into the car, going across the Bowl Bridge. And all I remember is the city So I went up there, I found the dog. I knew Harry was going to come home in about 2 hours, so I tied the dog up to his hat. I got a phone call, it's 2 hours, and he said, "There's some cranks tied up a dog at my house." He said, "That's a little council work." I said, "Harry, it's wonderful." And we had a big laugh. That's what he was like. He liked Joe Biden. But seriously, I always found him to be a very, once he says what you think, certainly fellow woman here is keen to burn, but even on council back in the early days, he had another council at that stage, but over that, he had the harm issue. Then another extreme unit on council. Tough, rough stuff. No big deal that anybody liked, but keep going through it. Another really strong look at night time and had space up there at the Peridale. I don't know who's going to look after that park now, so I'm sorry to get the CEO. We know who's going to. So we'll have to do something at that park because there's no real control of that park as much as there's Harry Quick, yes, Harry Quick. But he's saying, "You've got to like it." I said, "You've got to take a sign up." So but I suppose the bottom line is that I always admire his admiration for the community, the style, obviously what he did, work was right through to 2007, Look, we did some funny things after that. We'll all do some funny things after that, but he's a funny guy, very good. So what I say here is that we lost a community in Harry. So I'm saying the time once actually carried out now, but other than that, the thing what they're singing for
and crikey tried hard for the community. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to say anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I didn't know Harry for as long as the other alderman over there. He was, for my time, it was a short time, but a very influential time. He was always very encouraging, always quick with a little bit of a, a fight for words or, for a bit of a joke and things, but very encouraging. Always when I remember I gave my first, I moved my first motion. I can't exactly remember, but he came over and, sort of pumped my tyres up pretty well and sort of did a good job, which was something that he really did constantly of. And so he's certainly sorely missed, certainly around this table with his wisdom and his passion for the people. So certainly we'll be missing him.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you. I'd love to say a few words for Harry and definitely missing him and feeling his absence next to me here. I've only really known him in the last 2 years as colleague on council, and I could never tell when he was going to swoop in as an advocate and mentor to me, but he did on several occasions, including my motion to use the term councillor, which he proudly used as well, and he was always there as a spokesperson for the environment as well. So it really felt that sense of mentorship that I know he extended to all of his students, and it's one of the things he's really well loved for. So yeah, rest in peace, Harry.
Thank you. Shane?
Thank you. Yeah, I only knew Councillor Harry Quick a short time as well. When I was elected on a recount to council, I found Harry to be a very wise, honest man who was a straight shooter as well. So he'd shoot from the hip. We've all seen that here at council meetings, and the ratepayers have seen it as well. But he had a heart of gold. He was always fighting for the battler. That's how I remember Harry, that he would get at these council meetings and he would stick up for the downtrodden.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I'm choking now. I just wanted to echo my fellow elected members' comments on Harry. Obviously, I've only known him for a couple of years. It's my time in council, and obviously know a bit about his long history. Obviously, he's served the people for quite a significant period of time, and I think he's touched a lot of people over the journey, whether his life as a school teacher or in Parliament or whatever it may be, or and at council as well. So he was always an open ear to me, very encouraging, happy to help where required and be kind of that voice you could turn to, I guess. And like Alderman Alderman just said, a bit of a straight shooter. And I guess that's one thing I'd appreciate about Councillor Quick was he meant what he said, and he always knew where he stood, Councillor Quick, and he fought for what he believed in. So I think that's something we should all admire about a person. They stand up for their values and their conscience.
Thank you. Justin, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I've only known Harry for a very short period of time, but I found him to be a very pleasure to work with here in the council, and I believe he's very honest and dedicated to the cause. So I believe that he'll be a very big miss for the Glenorchy City Council and the people in the Glenorchy for not having Harry here in the future. So thank you. Rest in peace, Harry.
Thank you. That just leaves me, unless you'd like to say something, CEO? No? Okay. I think dear Harry lived the value of others before self. He showed that on numerous occasions throughout his life. Considering how ill he was, he never ever complained. He would turn up regardless of how terrible he felt. He had a really funny sense of humour, and he often reflected on things he'd done in his past. And what I really liked was he took Molly, as they became quite close, and it was lovely to see, because Harry was looking for this council to be brave and innovative, and he wanted us to plant more trees and to be preparing for a city that had electric cars and other innovations. So he will be sadly missed, and thank you for all your years of service, Councillor Harry Quick. The Electoral Commission has now begun the recount process to fill the casual vacancy left by Councillor Quick's passing. This is a recount of the votes from when Councillor Quick was last elected, which was the October 2022 council election. The Electoral Commissioner commenced the recount process last Friday, 25th of October, by writing and emailing to all candidates who stood in the 2022 election but were not elected to ask if they wish to be included in the recount. The recount will take place afternoon next Monday, 4th of November. Whoever is elected as an elected member after the recount will be elected for the remaining term of council. Councillor Quick's position on the audit panel will be filled by nominations from the elected members once the recount has occurred. Now, for the general updates that we do at every meeting and also at every workshop, the first one is the pool update. Repair and reopen. Council officers are working to finalise the tender documents for the repair and reopening of the pool. And I know I've said this every single week, but this includes working with architectural and engineering consultants on the designs for the repair work to inform these tender documents. It is expected that the documents will be ready for release when or soon after the $5 million grant deed with the Tasmanian government is signed. And what we're waiting on there is the grant deed is being prepared by the Department of State Growth and will be finalised once the budget has received royal assent, which I think is another 10 days away or so. No, well, it's passed both houses of Parliament, so it shouldn't be far away. DSG have informed Council that this will be mid to late November. Council's experience releasing major tenders during December does not result in strong applications. Therefore, depending on the timing of the grant deed, Council may wait until early 2025 to release the tender documents. Construction work is anticipated throughout 2025, with the aim of the work will complete in time to open the pool in late 2025 for the 25-26 summer period. Therefore, you will not see any work being carried out on the pool site until next year. It should be noted that this timing will need to be confirmed once tenders are received and the contractor availability is confirmed. A reminder that the key features of the planned works include, so it's worth waiting for to get this perfect, all ability accessible ramp entry into the main pool. That's wonderful. New chemical delivery bund, concrete repairs to the grandstand, plant room and new slab over the plant room tunnel. New pool expansion joints, repaint pool and skim coat repairs. New pool heating system, new switchboard, plant room repairs, pool drain repairs and upgrades, pavement repairs around the pool surrounds, removal of the slide and rehabilitate the area because of risk and safety issues, new and separate filtration system to the toddler pool upgrades contingent on the remaining budget. Then we have to do amenity works, which is upgrade the toilet blocks, upgrade the shower facilities, refresh both main change rooms, additional new family and accessible change rooms, upgraded reception area, staff facilities and a new first aid room. Now we move on to the future of a new pool. Council received a comprehensive and well-received briefing on the final options assessment for the future of the pool at last week's open workshop. So we are expecting the full business case for the new pool to be delivered to us by the end of this week. We will use the business case to start lobbying governments for the 84 million needed to secure the long-term future of an impressive pool facility. Golden Years Club. Council has recently been made aware that the Golden Years Club, who operate out of 314 Main Road, Glenorchy, will be closing on the 17th of December and wrapping up as an association. Council officers have been in contact with the club to see if they will be open to delaying the closure. However, Council has received advice that the club will definitely be closing. Potential rent waiver fee was offered, however, it's noted that the club is already on a minimal rental fee. The club has provided really important services to the people of Glenorchy over a long period and also sub-hires the facility out to a range of community organisations. The impending closure of the Golden Years Club means that Council will undertake a strategic review of the best long-term use of this property. However, in the short term, officers are investigating options for the existing community organisations that also use the venue to continue to be able to use the facility through 2025 to minimise disruptions to these groups and programs and to help with planning for longer term arrangements. Tolosa Park update. Formal handover of the Tolosa Park from Taswater will occur on the 9th of December, so that's something to really look forward to. We are pursuing grant funding to put towards phase 2 of the project, which will see it further transformed into a regional recreation space. Taswater are now progressing the painting of the 2 reservoirs, which will be fantastic at the site, and they are working towards this being done by the end of February. So that'll be a really welcoming site when you go there. Taswater will soon be seeking feedback from community on 2 options for the reservoir tanks. Now, the MCOT kitchen opening. Last week, I was joined by the Assistant Minister for Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, Julian Hill, Senator Carol Brown, Michelle Swallow from the Tasmanian Community Fund Board member, and MCOT Acting CEO Joanna Kubelis to officially open the new MCOT kitchen. So that's a picture of part of the kitchen. It's also got another preparation section and an area for a big pool. The commercial kitchen was made possible with grant funding from the Australian Government's Multicultural Affairs and Citizenship Grants Program and a Tasmanian Community Grant Fund with in-kind support from this council. It was good to see so many elected members there on the day. The kitchen will facilitate catering for cultural events and activities and offers a venue where the preparation, sharing of food can unite individuals, allowing them to celebrate, explore and share their diverse culinary and cultural heritage. Working for a safe and clean city, I'm pleased to report on 3 projects that meet our objective of working for a safe and clean city. So first of all, city safety. And if I could ask the Deputy to pass these around and then back round this way, that would be great. So Council's community teams have worked closely with Tas Police to develop a series of safety brochures. They are basically brochures for members of the community and also members of the business community to deal with things such as shoplifting, street robbery, vehicle theft, burglary and vandalism. And we're doing everything we can to work with the police and the community on these issues. We're not alone when it comes to these crimes, but we're trying to be a really proactive council in this space. So these brochures will be available at community events or at customer service and will soon also be on our website. Maintaining our open spaces, the Urban Services team recently completed the planting of trees at the corner of Barossa Road and Oxford Street, adding to the general amenity of the area. That's great to see, and I know our friend Harry would be very happy with that. Child Safety Initiative. As we work towards council becoming a child safe organisation, we are launching a Term 4 art competition that will give children, young people and young adults the chance to create artwork that focuses on one of 4 child safety themes. These themes include feeling safe and loved, the best thing about living in Glenorchy, someone I trust, and kindness. Council will exhibit entries in the early 2025. Winners will receive a gift card and their work may be used in our child safety signing, documents and social media products. Now, responses to question or notice. I've asked for an officer report on this issue and I'm hopeful that council will support that. To be clear, this is not about reducing the number of car parks in our city. We want to make that perfectly obvious. This is about looking at how we might increase housing while maintaining the levels of car parking we have. Pecuniary interest notification. Does anyone on council have anything to declare? No, thank you. Response to previous public questions taken on notice. It was a quiet month, there were none. Now we have the public question time, and this is for 15 minutes. There are various rules that I have to read out. Public question time is an opportunity in the formal meeting for the public to ask questions of their elected council representatives about matters that affect ratepayers and citizens. In accordance with Regulation 31(2) and 3, Public Question Time, Local Government Meeting Regulations 2015, Council will allocate 15 minutes during each council meeting to invite members of the public to ask questions relating to the activities of your council. The following rules and procedures apply to Public Question Time. Questions must relate to the activities of council. Members of the public are to announce their name and residential address before asking a question, which will be recorded in the minutes. Questions are to be put succinctly and in the form of a question, not a comment. Questions must not be inflammatory, abusive, defamatory, contain a personal attack, or otherwise breach any rules of the meeting which have been explained by the chairperson. The chairperson may limit the number of questions asked by each member of the public in order to ensure that all members of the public wishing to ask questions are given the opportunity within the allocated time. The chairperson will decide the order in which the questions are asked and may rotate the order between different members of the public if individuals have more than one question to ask. The chairperson may, in their absolute discretion, refuse to answer a question if the chairperson deems that it is inappropriate or does not comply with these rules or the rules of the council meeting. Take a question on notice, in which case the answer will be provided in writing prior to the next council meeting and included on the agenda for the next council meeting. If a question is taken on notice, the chairperson may request that the member of the public submit their question in writing and may refuse to provide a response if the question is not provided as requested. And the 15 minutes allocated for the public question time may be extended at the discretion of the chairperson at the conclusion of the time period. Council is to publish information relating to public question time, including any additional rules or procedures on the council website. We had some questions that were asked on notice and they've been answered in the agenda. So, could I ask any members of the public present if they would like to ask a question? Thank you, Janice.
With reference to the comment about infill apartments on the CBD car parking, that has been rezoned, are you aware that the state planning provisions do not require the developer to provide parking on those developments?
CEO, would you like to comment, or would you want recommend we take it on notice?
Thank you. The other question related to that is I noticed there's been now a mention of these apartments being social and affordable housing. What has happened to the plan for using the land at the showground for this type of development?
To my understanding, that's still going through the motion and process, but I'll ask the CEO to comment on it.
Through you, Mayor. So there's a proposal from, the state government has funded the Royal Agricultural Society $42.1 million towards a new show pavilion. Part of the deal is to provide a proportion of social housing in the vicinity of 150 housing units of what is hoped to be a total number of 450 housing apartments on that site. That we have and there are two, I think we have a specific area plan. I'm not sure whether that proposal has been received owner's consent yet, so I'm not sure whether it's a live proposal, but I believe it is. I'm just looking at the Deputy CEO and he's saying, he's confirming that it is, yes. So we have if you like, effectively a planning scheme amendment request for council to consider in relation to the planning rules, if you like, to enable that to happen.
Because that would be a much better option than using our car parks. But also, the infill apartments will increase the need for more parking on top of the public parking that's required, that's already at capacity. So just making that comment. The other question I have is to do with your proceeds of property policy that you're in your updated policies this evening. The sale of public land rests solely with the elected members, and my concern is that it does not come back to council to say what the valuation and the price received for the property. It doesn't return back for the elected members. There's the transparency. I'm questioning the transparency because other councils do that.
Right. So, CEO, would you like to answer that?
Through you, Mayor, I believe this question has been asked and answered a couple of times previously, but essentially the process that council undertakes is that we have an informal public disposal of public land community engagement process. If council then considers that and then makes a formal decision whether to commence a formal statutory process under Section 178 of the Local Government Act, that process is then undertaken. A report then comes back to council to formally determine whether or not to dispose of the land. That decision is subject to appeal rights to the independent Tasmanian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. And in terms of the transparency of the transaction, council provides an annual report on the proceeds from property disposals, and that is reported back to council.
But that doesn't give the elected members the opportunity to question the price and the valuation that is being received for that public land. And under the Section 22(3), the delegation by elected members, they must not delegate any of its powers relating to the sale, donation, exchange or other disposal of land or public land. So as far as transparency goes, I believe that that should come back to council. That's my opinion, and
Well, we thank you for that. Do you want to add anything else?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, again, that issue has been raised previously and has been addressed in writing to you previously.
12 months ago, yes, and
correct.
I wasn't happy with the response, and it's still a live issue to me. That's all.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie?
Right.
My name is Eddie Steenbergen and I live in Mary's Hope Road, Rosetta. And most of my questions relate to information that appears in the quarterly report to be considered tonight, which is, I should tell people at home, is one of the more interesting reports that they should bother looking at if they want to know what's going on in council. So, my questions. I notice in the report that the Department of Housing is paying rates differently now. They're paying quarterly rather than at the beginning of the year in advance. And apparently they're saving some money in the process. So are they saving any money doing it that way? And why has council actually agreed to allow them to do it that way?
General Manager.
Through you, Mayor, I need to take that one on notice, but, you know, as with all of our customers, they're entitled to take various arrangements in relation to the payment of their rates. So, but we will follow up and come back to council.
Okay, thank you for that. My second question relates to the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor project. Almost the longest project name I've come across. And there's a mention in the quarterly report that the implementation board has met. Can I have some sort of information about what that project has actually achieved with its $25 million?
Oh, you will be so pleased with this outcome. The CEO has studied it thoroughly.
Thank you, Mayor. It has been a long-standing project. So it first kicked off. Council was among the signatories to the Hobart City deal in February 2019, and part of that deal was a commitment to activate the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor within between 5 and 10 years of the signing of the deal. The progress to date has been a number of reports, including a report on the preferred mode to use the corridor, which was a PricewaterhouseCoopers, which indicated that it was less expensive to introduce rapid bus transport to the corridor than light rail. However, rapid bus transport would have a lower land use uplift, if you like, in terms of being able to deliver people, as many people. But overall, the government has preferred to progress rapid bus transport. The second major, study or report that's been done in relation to this was a condition survey commissioned by the Department of State Growth, which has identified a number of issues with the existing corridor, including the condition of the rail line, and in fact the need to potentially decontaminate the line, issues with the condition of bridges along the corridor, drainage issues, and finally some issues in terms of the width of the corridor in relation to contemporary rail safety standards. So those issues were raised in the condition survey. The third, probably principal study that has looked at this has been more on the land use side, which has been around the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor growth strategy, which was really, you could say, was really quite a high level document that was suggesting an approach to
if you like, creating more housing along the corridor. But it's very much a high level kind of document. More recently, the state government has put on public engagement its draft Keeping Hobart Moving plan, which is it combines a number of projects that the state government has been working on, and part of that in relation to the corridor is essentially what I would call a Y plan, in that it's identified not only the Northern Suburbs corridor, transport corridor, as a potential rapid bus transit route, but also corridors to the east and to the south. So progressing as far as Kingston, Blackmans Bay, and kind of, I think, Howrah from memory. And so essentially where they're at is they've apparently been working on this for the last couple of years. Their transport planner has been working on it, and they're in the process of preparing I think it's a strategic business case at this stage, which would then be the prelude to a more detailed business case. And the federal government has allowed the part of the funding that's been identified for the corridor be devoted to that work. So that's the latest, and I believe it's intended to be going to cabinet. The Keeping Hobart Moving Plan is intended to go to cabinet in December of this year.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive answer.
That's it. We have had, over the decade that I've been in local government, we have had reports on reports about reports. And the last one, I think, made a recommendation that we do some murals and plant some garden beds. So I don't know that we'll be seeing it any day soon, but I wish them well in the December meeting. Thank you. You have another question?
Yes, I do. Three.
Well, it's a slow question night.
One more, I think, after this. The report also mentions an application for rezoning of land in Grantham for greenfield development, which is sort of in limbo. Apparently, council's waiting for some information from the applicant. What can you tell me about that application and where it's at and what we're waiting for?
Thank you,
Chair. I might start and then perhaps hand over to the Deputy CEO. So we've been working with an applicant for quite a period of time, probably 18 months, 2 years, in relation to land that lies north of Upper Hilton Road in Grantham. And the applicant, I believe, has agreements with a range of landowners through the corridor, and is working towards a structure plan for that part of the land. In terms of the more recent development, through the Mayor, I'd hand over to the Deputy CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. We are waiting on, we've had a request for further information to clarify a few parts of the proposal on what they intend to do, how they handle the open space requirements. So that's something that we're working with, trying to get in one location rather than lots of separate locations. A few stormwater drainage issues, some retention or detention systems need to be installed. So there's a few infrastructure related things that's still working through, and we're waiting on that further information request to progress it. Yeah, but it's still live and underway.
Thank you. And my final question relates to the Techno Park, which has sort of piqued my interest lately. This is just a very specific question. It's about rates. The Department of State Growth seems to own a lot of the land in the Techno Park. Do they pay any rates?
CEO?
Through you, Mayor, my recollection is that it used to be, back in the old days, the council didn't pay any land tax, and then the state government didn't pay any rates. But there was a national competition policy agreement reached some time ago between state and local government. And so for a number of years now, I believe the state government pays rates and the local government pays land tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings to a close question time, pretty much on time too. So we now move on to item 7, which is petitions addressing council meetings. Are there any?
No.
No. Now move on to item 8, the council's response to the independent review of education in Tasmania public consultation paper. Have someone to move this, please? Thank you, Deputy. Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Like to open debate?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, obviously the State Government's commissioned an independent review to see how we can improve the education system over the next years, and I'm sure this is something that Councillor Cook would be very pleased to see in his capacity and very much interested in education. So it's excellent to have Council provide feedback and to provide our take on it. Addressing the key themes, and I really believe our responses are well considered and they can be implemented really well over time with some good leadership and bringing about all the parties along with the journey. So I've got a little bit of vested interest in this one with children under 10. So the next 10 years for their education is very important, and I look forward to seeing the recommendations and the outcomes of the review.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I'd also like to commend this report. I think the officers have done an excellent job in composing it, and I think the recommendations are really strong. I couldn't help but feel slightly frustrated when reading through the excellent recommendations that funding can't properly be addressed by this submission. Yeah, and as Deputy Mayor Alderman Yaxley is referring to having kids, I remember when my son, who's was 1 year old, he got this teddy bear with a t-shirt on it saying Gonski, and that was just when the Gonski review had been released, an excellent report. And yeah, so he was 1 year old, very cute little bear. He's now about to turn 14. And there's still a funding gap in meeting the absolute basics for our education system to meet the schooling resource standards. So that 5% gap is still there. And yeah, I couldn't help but feel deflated, thinking we can make all these wonderful recommendations, but until that money hits that, like, you can have a plan, but if it's not funded, it's just not going to be delivered. So having said that, I'd like to commend the report that's been put together, and I also liked seeing in there about recognition about the median age of Glenorchy local government area being 37, so we're quite a young and growing young families in our area, and also mention of our cold community, and we've got a higher Indigenous population here, so very applicable to us in the local government area of Glenorchy. And I think that's all I had to say.
That was a very good contribution. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to add in regards to what my fellow elected members have said. They've pretty much covered everything. I think what's important to note from a community point of view is that these responses that we've made and independent people have made are available to view at the Independent Education Review website, which is www.ier.tas.gov.au. And I strongly encourage our community members to go and read Council's response and everybody else's response, which has been valuable in framing up this entire process.
Excellent. Anyone else? No? So I'll put would you like to sum up?
No.
In that case, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. And again, thank you to the officers for their hard work. Item 9 is activities of the Mayor. Who would like to move this? Thank you. Oh, we just had a hand up first by Alderman Cockshott, so I'll take Alderman Cockshott, and Alderman Slade, you can be the second. Alderman Cockshott, do you have anything to say?
Just want to say, it looks like you've had a very busy month again, Mayor. Just was wondering if you could fill us in regards to your meeting with the CEO of Catholic Care on Thursday, the 3rd of October, in regards to what that was about.
Sorry, what date was that?
Thursday, the 3rd of October.
Yes, that was good. That was to introduce us to the gentleman who was stepping in to run the Mill Lane facility. Is that how you remember it, CEO?
I'm not sure, was that the same meeting?
Yes. Yes, I believe so. So we got to meet the new person who's going to be running that. And then we had the meeting about Fits and Binnies and the development and progress there. And also had a general talk about need in the community and the various things that St Vinny's does, which is pretty impressive. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, Mayor. I was really curious about the 26th of September. I wondered if you'd like to share takeaways from where are all the young people going and why?
It was, thank you. That was a fascinating evening. My apologies to the other guest speakers, but there was one young woman who had moved to Hobart, and she explained that she'd come down in a combi van and did a holiday with her sister, and she just felt at home and decided to stay here. But so she was doing university and her friends were leaving the state, but she felt this, really important need to stay here. So she spoke about her experience and why she thought people were leaving, and basically that was around jobs, opportunities, cost of living, those things. And the other speaker is a well-known geographer, and she has a child in that sort of age group, and she also spoke about that it is important some people leave the island to appreciate the island, and if they have learnings away from the island and bring them back, if we could sort of get a written guarantee, that would be sensational. But it was a very interesting conversation, and members of the community were also asking, well, how do we retain and don't have a brain drain? So it was an informal type of function, but I love those type of events, and so it was a really interesting one. Yes, thank you. Alderman Alderton.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 2nd of October 24, you met with Marla Crew regarding Diwali. Now, Diwali is a pretty significant cultural event in the Indian community. We have a very, very large Indian presence in our community, along with other cultures. So I was just wondering what you discussed in regards to Diwali with Marla and whether council is participating in any way in Diwali.
We are. Marla was inquiring about the multicultural grants and discussing with our team various aspects of that event, which is being held this weekend, I believe. Yes, this weekend. Devi Sharma is also part of it, so he's leading the Indian community, and they're putting a lot of hard work into this event to make it successful. The council has given them a cultural grant of $7,500, and the rest of it they all have to organise themselves. It's going to be held at the Montrose Yacht Club.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Well, it was a busy month. The recommendation is that we receive the reports of my activities. And so I'll put it back to the mover, who was Josh. Thank you.
No further comment.
No, thank you. All those in favour, raise your hand. Again, carried unanimously. Now we're moving on to item 10, business unit reviews, the quarterly update. Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Anyone for seconding it? Thank you, Alderman Slade. Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is just a summary of the activity of the business units for the last quarter. So some takeaways, some star headlines were the sector delays in Project Hudson, unfortunately, and we've got phase 2 catching up in the second phase of delivery, which is great. Got the Moona Arts Centre update. We had an average of 150 people a day. That's my average, so I might have gotten that wrong, which is getting up there with libraries. I feel like they're really absolutely pumping the attendance there, and a really young attendance as well. I was lucky enough to go to the Pagoda Southeast Asian Festival night with lots of artists and performers. So many young people there and people saying, I've never been to this venue before. It's really cool. Oh, it's a council place. So I think we're getting great traction in the community with young people, hopefully aspiring to one day work at their council because it's a cool council. Community development. I wanted to shout out to the digital literacy program, which is open to all members of our community if they're having trouble with computers. Also great information about safety, digital safety online and warding off phishing attacks and various other threats. And I think that's a summary. Happy to open it for debate.
Thank you. Alderman.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out something significant here that we've had a 77.13% significant increase on the same time last quarter in attendance with the Moona Arts Centre. So that obviously clearly demonstrates that the business plan that we all supported and worked very hard to get up and running is bearing some fruit.
Thank you. I agree. Any other commentary, Deputy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question regarding Project Hudson. The town and planning of the building and plumbing modules, I obviously appreciate that it's under discussion in terms of the scenarios, but I guess I was interested in to find out what sort of scenarios are proposed and are there worst case timeframes in that? Now we've taken that module out of that area.
Through there, I might start and then I might throw to the director. So the issue with Project Hudson in relation to the town planning module is largely the clock and making sure that the clock in the system is compliant with Tasmanian legislation. Because in Tasmania we have there's quite a penal approach to applications exceeding their statutory timeframes. Yeah. The clock has to be really good. In other states, the clock doesn't really matter so much. So that's a big issue we have to look at, and we also are exploring the potential for what happens in terms of the state government's planning and building module called Plan Build. So we're looking at a couple of options at this stage, but I'll throw to the director for more detailed
Yep, thank you, through you, Mayor. We have actually had a demonstration with Plan Build because the version that they have now built has come a long way. We have had some earlier demonstrations and it was a bit clunky and hadn't been fully developed. Hobart have actually adopted it, and so the demonstration we had was the latest version that has been adopted by Hobart, and it has come a long way and it is under consideration. We have also recently discussed progress with the ReadyTech team, and we've outlined the concerns with the clock and some other, I guess, system issues that don't align with Tasmanian legislation. They've assured us that they can be rectified and customised to suit, and we're just arranging a demonstration with the ReadyTech team to see an end-to-end application process so that we can compare against what we've seen with Build Plan. So that's actually happening, I believe, next week. I think we're getting the demo. So that is actually progressing. So we'll have some options that that we'll be able to work with.
Sorry, through that. And so that time frame won't edge out too far.
Not too far. I mean, there is going to be probably a little bit of an extension of time because from where we thought we were going to be, we have pushed out, but that's given us that opportunity to look at Build Plan as well. And I think it's worthwhile that we do explore both options thoroughly before deciding which one to go with. Make sure we get the best, most efficient system for the council and the staff to use.
Excellent. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make any commentary? No? Well, I'd just like to say it was a really impressive report and it just filled my heart with pride with a lot of the positive activities this council is doing, particularly the turnaround in the Moona Arts Centre, the raising the standard of the presentations is reflected in the attendance. It's really acting in a very, what's the word I'm trying to find, in a very business unit way. And proactively adding not only, trying to cover some of its costs, but really giving us what its purpose was, which is to involve emerging artists, quality artists that, are further down the track in their career. I've seen some amazing expos just lately there, and it's so good to see people out of area coming to Glenorchy specifically for these functions. I think it's a real show in how when, the council refocuses a business unit, it does deliver, and that's really good. One thing I'd like to say, and I'm hoping our colleague, Councillor Dunsby, is probably online watching us. Councillor Dunsby was always very concerned when we lost the newsletter that we used to be able to send out due to it being cost prohibitive. But the team at council have done so much work in the social media space in delivering all the good news, and also even over at Northgate, they've reconfigured where the posters are, so it's much more friendly and looks nice and clean instead of that horrible big clunky table thing that was there. And they're putting the messages out and little billboards about the activities we're doing as far and wide as we can. So we've seen some massive new engagement and a refocus and how we're getting the message out. Obviously, we'd still love to have everyone understanding all the things their council does for them. But I do think, even though we're not doing it via newsletter, we are doing everything in our power to make sure that we spread every activity that the council's doing. So I'm particularly impressed with that. I was pleased with all the study and improvements that's going on in childcare, and the community development action plan's fantastic. The multicultural hub was very interesting and another benefit to our community, which is has a very big cult community. So any other contributions? No, then I'll go back to the mover. You're happy with that? Okay, so the recommendation, all those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you, carried unanimously. The next one is item 11, submission on draft development assessment panels. Who would like to move this one? Thank you, Deputy. Seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Okay, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. This submission for the Development Assessment Panel, I can certainly see the need of the panels in very few situations, but it's really important that it's made clear and reasonable. It's not adding any additional red tape for the planning side of things. So it's very important that it's an effective panel. However, obviously the report talks about the 5 major concerns that our council has had in the past and has written in our submission, and they are fair and reasonable, and they need to be answered and addressed, in my opinion, which council is requesting. And it's certainly, if not done correctly, the potential for major issues and failings for the future are potentially there. Trying to remove political interference at a local level, but potentially adding it at a state level is a bit of an issue. So it must address these clear issues, and without proper implementation and guidelines, the Development Assessment Panel could possibly do the exact opposite of what it's intending to do, which is reducing red tape. So I support the officer's submission and open to debate.
Thank you. Anyone have any contribution? Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow on from the Deputy Mayor's comments there, I mean, if the education shortfall didn't frustrate me, this one really did. Yeah, I mean, it was clear that that the large majority of people who responded to this, there were 450 responses, were overwhelmingly opposed to it. But here is their response justifying why they're going ahead with it. Amendments don't address the concerns and they've in some cases made them worse. The main points that were raised that were issues, to name a few, referrals to development application assessment panels shouldn't be at the discretion of the applicant. So that's the developer saying, I think there's been bias, this needs to go to a DAP. It should be in the hands of the planning committee. So this process further complicates what's already a complicated system. There's ambiguity in the language, in how you trigger a panel. And as Alderman Yaxley is saying, I don't think it depoliticises, it puts the power in the hands of one person who also happens to be a politician, notably giving the minister power to intervene where a development is deemed to be controversial. And I can think of many recent examples of controversial large infrastructure developments that could have easily been handballed to a DAP without any involvement. So fundamentally, I think it's undemocratic, and I recognise that there are flaws in our planning system, but I don't think there's any proven evidence that this is the solution. So my question, I guess, is where to from here, and do we know when this is due to come into legislation?
Could you answer that, CEO?
Through you, Mayor. No, it's a draft bill, so it's fairly advanced.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this matter? Thank you, Alderman Alderton.
Yeah, it's just a question, Mayor, Cecilia. Will we be writing to our politicians who will be making the final decision on this draft bill in a letter outlining our concerns?
Through you, Mayor. So the submission at the moment is just framed to go back to the State Planning Office, which is coordinating comments on the draft bill. But once council has an official position, we'd certainly have no problem with sharing this and increasing influence in the coalition of the willing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further contributions? No. I just find this incredibly frustrating that our planners yet again have to do the hard yakka to try and rectify failures of the planners in the government. It does seem pretty resource intensive, and it was made perfectly clear last time, and they've just come back with the same stuff. The only good news or hope is that with the parliament configured the way it is at the moment, common sense will get the changes through. And, hopefully we will see an improvement to this draft bill on the floor. So having said that, the recommendation is there before us, and now who moved that one? Debbie, do you want to say anything else?
No, just I guess my only point is that it's a very critical part of this whole planning process. So as much as we can be on the front foot with it, as much as we can, without being too much, but yes, certainly being part of the coalition.
Thank you. So I put the motion. Those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. It's carried unanimously, and again, our thanks to our planning officers. The next one is item 12, updated council policies. So who would like to move this one? A little quiet on this end of the table. Alderman Cockshott, well done, thank you. And Alderman Slade, sorry, not Slade, Alderton.
Yeah, look, thanks, Mayor. Look, it's a very detailed report. I think both the policies, we've seen the detail. It's pretty straightforward from my perspective, so I'm quite happy with the update. No further comments on that myself.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm happy with these policy updates. I just had a question about the open space. So if the open space policy plans have been superseded by the planning for play policy and the active Glenorchy 2040 policy, what oversight do we have for ensuring there's no net loss of open space in our city?
CEO.
through you there. I guess, again, the comments that I made to Ms Bryan earlier on are that whenever council is considering a property disposal, it is brought here to council for consideration. And council officers have been through quite a detailed process to identify land that is surplus to requirements. And the benefit of this policy is that it reinvests, a proportion of those proceeds into improving council's open space system. So it's not necessarily how much land we have, it's have we got the amount of land we need, and are we developing it to the right standard for our community?
Thank you. Any other further questions? No. In that case, I just want to thank the officers again for their work, because it shows very good governance when you continually review your policies to make sure they're contemporary and best practice. So I'll go back to Alderman Cockshutt.
No further comment.
Thank you. And in that case, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Now we move on to the quarterly report. Thank you, Alderman Cockshutt, and thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. As per the summary, it's great to see the council in a good financial position. Obviously, we're closing on the year. We need to have a budget as close as possible, but we're well on track to hit in line with our financial management plan. Obviously, a lot of capital works scheduled as well. So I think where things sit currently, we're in a good position. You'd rather be in front than behind, but obviously we've done a lot of work, and council officers have done a lot of work in getting us here. So congratulations to all those involved, and I'm looking forward to seeing more works completed over the coming months.
Thank you. Any further commentary? Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question just regarding the recruitment. I appreciate that it's a really competitive environment, but obviously if we are too long without those people on the ground or without the roles filled, certain things within the business or within council might not be able to happen. So I guess my question is are we doing everything in terms of, obviously there's traditional ways of seeking out things. Are we doing anything that's a little bit non-traditional in terms of seeking everything? I guess, yeah, it's just a concern that we have these outstanding.
We'll ask the director.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, yes, we are. We obviously must do web-based recruitment. So we go out to the market and we advertise for positions. If we have no luck in that positions like recruitment, in terms of the services we deliver, it might be single person dependency for those type of positions. We will actually go and recruitment agencies as well. We just try and spread our links, spread our networks. We try to get it out there on social media and explore every avenue to try and attract our candidates.
Yep.
So, and on discussions with them, we and in fact include this in our advertising. We are offer flexible work practices, so we have working from home, we have 9-day fortnights for most staff. We put all of that out there on the table to try and attract staff as well. And it is a very hard labour market, particularly when you're looking at skilled labour.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you're doing your very best, but it's not sure. Thank you.
Any further questions? No? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Item 14 is the quarterly committee updates. Thank you, Alderman Slade and Alderman King.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just quickly go through these. The first one there is clearly outlined what's happened for the Access and Inclusion Committee. It's good to see there that the minutes there attached from one which you can go to. Emergency Management Committee, quite a major committee, especially with the hot season coming on, and it's outlined there what's been in plan and what's again reflected in attachment 2. Glenorchy Hub Steering Committee, mentioning there what they've been up to, and of course progressing well within our city. I've got some issues with safe, and this is the committee that I'm involved with. I'm a little bit confused. Is it Safe and Clean Committee, or is it the Safer Communities Committee? I mean, I like the name Safer Communities Committee, but I noticed further down we've now brought in the Safe and Clean Committee. I mean, are we doing a bit of a wash job as well as looking after people? It's just, I mean, the Safer one really rolls off nicely. I just wondered what it's.
I'll just have to see.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, we'll go back to the minutes
Yes.
when the committee was created and double check the title.
Okay. And hope you don't mind me,
No.
Mayor. I'm not being smart anyway, but I do like minutes that have people's proper names full. In this one here, this one really is a little bit on the downside. New police officer, Jim's successor. Well, who's Jim? It's Jim's mowing. I mean, you know, it is an inspector. So we need proper titles, and then we need a proper title of the new fella. Impact on work efficiency. Matthew discussed. Well, who's Matthew? So you'll get the fees goes down there. Right, and it seems to be in this committee only that we have this, and then we go on to the next one on the 24th September, and the same thing's there where we've got just people, we don't know what their titles are, and we don't know what they, you know, basically, essentially what they do. But that could just perhaps be a bit more reflective. That's all I'd ask, Mayor. So from there, we move on, and then the attachments are there for the minutes. I'm going to tend to raise this at the next meeting in relation to how those minutes should be reflective. Just wondered how do you want me to do that for the CEO? You see what I'm saying?
Through you, Mayor, the only comment I would make on this lady is that the details, the full names of each of those people, from what I can see, and the organisation they represent, is included in the minutes.
Correct.
And then there are abbreviated references later in the body of the minutes. So it's really a matter for the secretariat of the committee.
CEO and general manager and Mayor, I'm happy then to withdraw the comments I've made from here. I tend to make those comments at the appropriate meeting. That's all.
Thank you. It was a very good point. Thank you.
No, I haven't quite finished yet, sorry. Sorry, and attachments are there for everybody. I really like the fact that the minutes, we can look those up. Apart from that, I'm pleased that the committees are up and running, and we're going to sort out the name, the Safe and Clean or whatever it is. But I think it's just good because having these committees running, you bump into people in the street, and I'm pleased that they're involved. I'm finding it's great to have that interaction from a lot of people working from other agencies, and I think this is a very positive thing. That's what I say. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I really appreciate the reports in here and the opportunity to report back. I guess it opens the door for a report back. And since this meeting, we've had another meeting which you attended, and again, those meetings are open for any alderman to attend and be aware of what's going on with emergency management. So I really like to thank Tracy and the staff who I just have to sit there and she puts her hand up the back and everything works beautifully because she runs things so well, so prepared, etc. I do believe we need an assistant chair for that committee if I'm not available, because I do believe it's a really important committee and things could happen this summer. We keep saying that every summer, but this could be the one. Who knows? We get regular reports from our fire department, and the committee is prepared as it can be as far as this council is concerned, I think. I mean, you can always do better, I know, but until something actually happens, you can't really test the water. And I think the staff and the various authorities that are involved, highly qualified, highly trained and highly able. So we're very fortunate
to be as prepared as we are.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, David.
A question, just on the back of Alderman King's comment, just around an assistant or a proxy emergency management person.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that we can expedite that and make that happen? I guess it's something that it's been raised a couple of times.
It doesn't cost anything, and
Yeah, or is it part of how do we?
We would go through our normal selection to committees policy process, so call for nominations and bring it, or we could potentially expedite it by bringing it to the next council meeting if needs be. The other thing that comes into my mind is, and I don't know the answer to this off the top of my head, but I'm not sure that there's obviously emergency management legislation to consider as well, and there may not be a position in the legislation for a deputy emergency management person, but the best we can do at our end is make sure we've got a backup arrangement in place.
So on that point, I have committed to be sitting there as an observer, but if necessary, I could fill in. Thank you.
I think it's really good, Mayor, because in 2013, when I was Mayor, we had horrific fires, and Alderman King was involved as well, and we were out for about 4 or 5 days straight. Staff were working hard here at this council, and honestly, we had fantastic cooperation here, but gee whiz, you couldn't do it with one person as elected member. It was very flat out. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. Yeah, also in support, I think that's a great idea. And I just had a question in regards to Neighbourhood Watch was mentioned in this committee's update, and I just wondered, is that program commencing again?
I can give it.
Thank you.
I think it was this one.
Or the slide. Would you like to answer?
Sorry, I haven't looked at Councillor Kendall. Look, that's another good thing about these committees. I've built some good relationship with the gentleman that sits next to me. He's really battling hard, a real hard worker in our community in relation to trying to get our program, which I was directly involved with in my police days, and it's so effective going. So we're working to get that certainly up on a smaller scale to be effective, and go from there. So the answer is yes, there is some enlightenment there, and it's basically he receiving as much support he can from external agencies along outside of police as well. So the answer is yes, he's getting some help there, and I hope we see at the next meeting some positive direction that we're going to expand this great program. At one stage had 130 in the state of Tasmania, and I won't say, I will say I'm very disappointed that the police department's dropped it and left it to hard-working individual non-police people to carry on an incredible task, and it's a mighty task to support your neighbourhood. So if that answers, we're going to, as a very proactive council, we're going to take it up.
Thank you.
Mayor, I might just add, from a staff point of view, my understanding is the Safer Communities leader has been working with that individual.
Very much.
And I think it might have been Volunteers Day. We actually tried to do some work to support recruitment of some more volunteers, but I haven't heard a recent report.
Yeah, very well done.
Thank you. Any other contributions? No. I think, there's a lot in this report, which is really important, but as we've seen in Queensland, crime is a big issue that our community deeply cares about. And so just from this Safe and Clean committee, they discuss things like shoplifting, assaults, working with the new police commissioner, he's an inspector, Jason Klug. We're looking at restorative justice, emergency calls, shoplifting reporting, increased police presence, uniform versus plainclothes, community building, security officer powers, new CCTV cameras, graffiti management, we're all over that. And there's a lot of events there that our officers are working to make this a safer place for everyone in Glenorchy, whether they're a visitor or a resident, or run a business, which is another important aspect. So Alderman Slade, would you like to sum up?
Mayor, all I just want to say is these committees are working very well at present moment, and it's really brought home. Everybody knows I'm a little bit more mature these days, I suppose. I obviously get a bit frustrated with the lack of time for these to get underway, but they are underway. And what's the good thing about it is I and other elected members have better understanding of what the staff do. That's really well. I have better understanding what the other people on the committees do, which is even better. We're getting better results. We're having more meaningful meetings, and we've got to have then, in the end, better outcomes for our community. So give this growth 12 months, these committees, Mayor and fellow elected members. I think it'll speak very, very well for itself. We've got very, very good supporting staff, but I still think, and I'll say that it's essential that we did have some representation from elected members. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I've got nothing else to say.
Okay. That being the case, I'll move the motion, put the motion, sorry. Those in favour, raise your hand. It's carried unanimously. Item 15, notices motion, questions on notice with or without notice. Anyone?
A quick question
Thank you, Deputy.
regarding, without notice, just regarding, we had a motion last meeting around the Montrose intersection. Just want to see the feedback we've received, if any.
CEO?
Through you, Mayor, I understand our letter has gone. I haven't personally been advised of any feedback at this stage.
Through you, Mayor, I haven't directly had a response back from
Yeah, okay.
No,
worries.
but we do intend to keep following it up.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Now, I need to either swap chairs with you, Deputy, or symbolically swap chairs with you and make you the chairman so that I can move the motion.
So, thank you, Mayor. So notice of motion for the requested report investigating the potential for more CBD housing without sacrificing public car parking. The motion is that council requests the Chief Executive Officer to present a report to the December 2024 council meeting, which explores the potential for the development of more housing in the city's CBD areas without sacrificing public car parking. And Mayor will move that, and the seconder.
I'd like to foreshadow the motion, if that's okay. If it's defeated, I'd like to foreshadow that we defer this motion back to the next council workshop.
So,
through you,
thank you.
Chair, I think we need to first of all have a motion before we can debate it. No, second. We need a seconder first.
Seconder first.
Is it me who put the motion? You put the motion in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Seconded to Alderman Slade. And so then the foreshadowing of the motion, if this is lost, we will go to the vote on that, correct? Okay, thank you.
Through you, Chair, I'm just wondering whether we can get a clarification again about the foreshadowed motion.
So the foreshadowed motion is, if this motion does not pass here tonight, I would like this matter referred back to a council workshop for further discussion, so that we can have greater input as elected members into the information you as the CEO require to proceed with making a report.
Thank you, Alderman Alderson. Mayor.
Yes.
Speak to the motion.
Thank you. As we all know, Glenorchy is not a particularly large council, and but it is trying to be a visionary council. It's trying to do its bit with the wicked problems of the world. We see daily people sleeping rough. We see people in our own streets who are homeless. We see people in tents and people without tents. And in the 2024 year, I still do not understand why we have this endemic problem that seems to be so hard to solve. Recently, the CEO and I were talking to Larry Thomas from Homes Tas, and she did ask if we had any land that we might be able to give, because that obviously makes building costs a lot cheaper. This council has unanimously adopted not only this statement of commitment on housing, but the earlier version of it too. And it does say, as a landowner, release surplus council land, owned land to increase residential land supply for housing. Now, I think we have to face the situation that land is a finite resource. There is only so much of it, so we just can't be giving it away, or it's in the interest of the ratepayers that we maximise the use of our resources, and if we sell land, we probably want a return on it. But we do have land that serves an important purpose right close to the railway, to the corridor, to the bus timetables, to shopping, to doctors, etc. And this is not a novel concept. It has been done by many, many councils. In fact, Hobart City Council has 3 of these situations where they've leased the air rights or used the air rights of land. So a very dingy, horrible Prince of Wales hotel that sat as a big, ugly car park for years and years was then, through a deal with the university, turned into a magnificent complex which has complete units for 440 people to live in safely in the city. And the Hobart City Council's managed to retain, I think it's 3 floors of parking, for which they of course do charge. I am not in any circumstances proposing the loss of car parks or the charging for car parks in the city. However, above that land is a possibility of, and I'm not wedded to social housing. I'd love to see affordable housing and maybe even private enterprise, as I've discussed with the Deputy, where, maybe doctor surgery or something and some housing. But this is a way where the council does not have to release land it owns and lose money, or it's a way of maximising the land, and it's also a way of, doing our bit for a really big crisis that we are seeing. It's not acceptable that people are living rough, and those with young children, or people escaping domestic violence and are getting turned away because there's no suitable accommodation. So I think it's incumbent on each and every one of us to do our bit. The other thing with this is not, a really complex issue. It's already exists. Hobart City Council, our neighbours, would happily share their learnings. They did 2 other ones. One was Common Ground, which I think was about 50 units, that has their car parking still underneath it. And the other one was in Goulburn Street, which they retain car parking underneath as well. But as I say, there's many examples around for that. My thinking was that my motion was really about requesting the council to commit the resources of our staff to giving us more information, of which we could then workshop and explore. But without the report, we're all going to be just offering willy-nilly stuff without a focus. So it's caused a bit of ruckus, that the way it's come through, but I'd say it's with good intent. It's about, the council really trying to look and be innovative and thinking outside the square as how we can be community leaders with resources we have without taking anything away from the community, but adding benefit to a much needed cohort. And this will also add more vibrancy to the city centre, and would also build that case for improved public services such as transport, particularly the metro services. So I put it to you, to the council, that if we do ask the CEO to write a report, he believes he can do it in just a month's time, and it's not going to take significant staff resources. Will bring back to us that we could workshop a knowledgeable discussion about how we'd like to see that either improved, expanded, or we just hate the idea. So that's that.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just open it to the floor. Alderman Slade.
Thanks, Debbie. Look, I support this motion, which is asking for a report. I think, the reasons why have been spelled out. I think it's really good that other councils have done this, and one close to us, obviously, in Hobart, and that seems to be very painless and it's been very, very effective. I think the one thing that really encapsulates me is that we've got to do something about this homelessness in our community. And we can't do it perhaps exactly today, but we can certainly start doing it tomorrow onwards. So from that point of view, I think that's enough in itself to do this report. I think actually with the what it's actually asking there for is for the report. There's actually time during that that they said for the report for December I'm not putting words in people's mouths or thoughts, but it may be through that, Deputy, that the CEO has a workshop in November, and then the result of that, he has some more information, and the report goes through in December back to us. So I'm just putting it up there. I support it. I think it's a very, it's not asking war and peace here, but I think it's something that it's got to be done to assist something in our community that just cannot continue on. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Alderson.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Yaxley. So I'm actually going to, I'll clarify here. I'm not against the idea. What I'm against at the moment here today is we have a motion before us which we received no papers for, no documentation and nothing. It's just a motion that's been put forward by one elected member that we're all being asked to vote on. For me personally, I like to have information and facts. I like to share points of view. We don't have this opportunity currently, and I honestly feel to assist the CEO further, we get greater value out of workshopping this first, having the conversation, because we may have the CEO come back and pass this motion, have the CEO come back with a report, then we ask a million questions and we send the CEO away to do a second report. Now, isn't that double dipping, time consuming? I mean, I have a million questions. I might even, while I'm putting my case forward here, have a question to the CEO. So in regards to what Mayor Sue Hickey has mentioned, Glenorchy is a totally different city to Hobart. So while we might embrace this idea, I certainly don't think we'd be looking at a 10 or a 15-storey high-rise building with 90 car parks that need to go to the occupants of that building. For me, that potentially takes away public parking space, because you've got to allow part of that parking space underneath. This is where I get the value out of workshopping this idea before we go away and get a report. Because as elected members, we can all ask these questions. We can all raise these concerns around height. We can all raise these concerns around parking spaces. We can all raise these concerns around the visual impact on our city. This is valuable information that can be workshopped, that you as CEO can take away and use when you're compiling your report.
Also, I'll just see if you'd like to answer the question in there. What was the question? A question regarding the report,
height was the first question.
Hypothetically, in terms of the question that come through about the hypothetical.
Through you, Mayor, it's difficult to answer that because it wasn't really a question, but I guess what I'm taking from that is that there's some potential concerns around what the pattern of development might look like, what it might do to the city, what the impact would be. I think what we would say is that the starting point for a report like this would be to begin with our own existing planning scheme provisions, and basically they establish the envelope that we can work with now, and we would look at what those parameters said now. If we could certainly explore beyond that, but that would involve planning scheme amendment. So I would have thought that the initial parameters would be around the building envelope that's kind of allowed under existing planning scheme provisions.
Would it be fair to say, though, as a council, we cannot guarantee that we will not be sacrificing public car parking space with any proposed development?
It'd have to go through planning.
See, yeah.
So again, through Chair, the parameters in the motion, as it stands at the moment, talk about without sacrificing public parking. So that would suggest that there needs to be no loss of public parking.
So just one final question. If this motion is passed and you proceed with a report, and then we come back and have a workshop, and we pick holes in the report and tell you to go away and do another report, that becomes another cost to the business potentially. And that's a possibility, correct?
Through Mayor, it's a possibility with any report that council officers put up to council. It wouldn't be the first time that council officers have had to go away and do some further work. As the Mayor said earlier, there is the potential for a workshop to, let's say this motion were to proceed, there's still a potential for us to look to a council workshop before.
That's what I said.
Yeah, before.
But I guess there's also the potential to go the other way and go back to a council workshop and then come back and do it once and do it right.
I've got to really said it, sir.
So is that a question?
Yes, I'm asking, yeah.
So you asked a question.
So sorry, I'll rephrase that question. Would it make any difference if we went to a workshop first and then had you go and do a report into this matter? Would it make any difference?
That's not a question that I can, through you, Chair. Sorry, that's not a question that I can necessarily answer because that really depends on what the people around this table think, not what I think. But I mean, what I could say is that I could see a potential benefit in terms of we could bring a kind of a scope type document to such a workshop and say, well, these are the things that we will look at. Have we covered the things that you want to know? The other comment I'd make is this is a motion to ask for a report. It's not a situation where we're saying, pass this motion tonight and we'll be building willy-nilly through our public parking areas. It's about starting an investigation process.
Alderman King.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Look, it's fair to say this may not have come through as everyone would have liked it to have come through. Sometimes better ask for forgiveness than permission. Here we are with the potential to start the ball rolling by having a report done, which we then will workshop, or we might workshop it before the report's done. Either way, it'll take 2 or 3 goes or 4 or 5 goes before we get this to exactly where we want it to be, I would imagine. That's no difference to what the CEO does in his first report. We'll all have questions, we'll think about it. Again, it's got to fit the planning scheme. And what we're doing is having the opportunity to create opportunities. That's all we're doing. As I said, maybe I've missed something, but so I'm in support of getting this moving. And if we can move things forward in some way, shape or form, there are a lot of areas, land in this council, I think we can do more with. We could certainly help for more building. I was over on the Eastern Shore, don't tell anyone that, but I was on the Eastern Shore the other day with my wife picking up a basket for one of our grandchildren, and I think it's where the new shopping centre is, whatever that's called. They said it was Rokehead. I'm sure it's Glebe Hill, yeah. Hundreds of houses being built there. I couldn't believe how many houses have been built there. And I sit here and think, what are we doing? Why aren't builders building here? So we've got to find a way to make things happen in a more affordable area and build our rate base.
Thank you, Alderman King. Alderman Contract.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think some of the questions around the table have been answered in regards to the actual question and the motion. I think, as the CEO alluded to, the parameters are set in the actual motion. The guidelines are, it'll go back to the council officers to report back on potential sites where it won't sacrifice public car parks. And we're only seeking to do a report into this matter, and it covers the whole Glenorchy city area. So I'm in support of the idea. I echo what Alderman King said in regards to the way I got here, but the situation is we're looking at a report whereby we can get the ball rolling, and I think any way where we can look at different ways of moving forward with affordable housing in the city, I think is a good thing. So I'm in supportive of the motion and getting started into doing the analysis. And obviously it'll go back to a workshop as per I think a lot of elected members would like it to. And we can pass on our feedback from there. And when the report does come back in December, no doubt we'll have a chance to give our feedback around the table then. They might require a second or third iteration. I think this is about just starting the process, getting it going.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Kendall.
Thank you. So I understand what the Mayor's trying to achieve with this motion. I think it's admirable. I think she's recognising the need that we need more housing, more social and affordable housing in this city, and there's a huge crisis that we have to try to do as much as possible, as quickly as we can, to try to address. And I think she's also trying to allay some of the community concern about the loss of car parks, which has been a hot button topic of late. But I would love to see this report, because I think there is a lot of evidence that when you build social and affordable housing, there isn't a huge demand from those residents for car parks, because often people don't have a car. And so I can see why they've been put together, even though maybe that's caused a little bit of confusion out there in the community. And I would love to see us progress both issues independently. So I think we've got a lot more levers at council than we're taking advantage of in terms of addressing the housing crisis. I was just recently at a cooperative housing summit in Adelaide last week, which was fantastic. And someone made the comment that the most affordable housing is the housing that's already built. So that really stuck with me, and it made me think about what are the levers we can use on council to try to activate some of the housing that we already have here, both trying to make use of that disused or empty houses that are out there, but potentially helping people to share their homes with others. So I would love to see some of that work be done, and I would love to see us partner with cooperative housing developers. That's a whole realm of possibility that we don't explore much in Tasmania, done a lot more on the mainland, and it's huge overseas. And at this housing summit, there was a report back from a European cooperative housing tour, and they made the comment that they'd asked so that's affordable renters who have a say and a stake in their homes, and they really feel like they own their homes. They have this sense of ownership. And so the tour asked these renters, so how does the landlord stop you trashing your home? And they just looked at them and said, what do you mean? Who would trash their own home? So there really is that sense of ownership in cooperative housing. So I'd love to see us pursue that as well. And also the importance of planning for active transport so that people can live in our CBD without needing to own a car, which will relieve parking pressure as well, and make sure that the parking that we do have is able to be accessed by people that need to park, like people with disabilities. So I am tempted as well to put as much as possible into this, but yeah, we've got it here before us, so I'm really happy to support getting the ball rolling and support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Kendall. Anyone else with any questions or comments?
Oh, sorry. Chair. I also support the actual getting the ball rolling on this issue as well. I think it's a big issue that Hobart is having, and we are seeing the effects because it is rolling out to us. The homelessness actually does expand, and we've seen that expand out to here in the last number of years as well. So housing is a massive issue for a lot of the people out there as well. Affordable housing for their first homes, or just people in general in their future, that we're not going to have enough housing if we try and expand our city. So getting the ball rolling on this is a positive thing. How the motion came about is not really concerning to me right now. It's about where we go from here, and I'm interested to see where the report leads to as well, and then where we can go from there with future workshops, etc.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment as well. I certainly see that there is some merit in the idea, but there is so much that we must understand, and there's so many things to appreciate and to fix up. We've recently had a principal activity centre for this area, the specific area plan, and that will be, so we talk about getting the ball rolling, that is the ball rolling, in my opinion. So we've got that happening, and that defines the local provisions, including apartment design. It considers a whole range of things, also the car parks, and so I believe that this is, and the motion calls for more housing. It's not just about affordable housing. It's not just about social housing. It should be about housing in general, and those also adding to the general conversation underneath. So it really needs to be a holistic review. It shouldn't be small. It should be a large report, and it should take 2 months if it needs to take 2 months. How it works in practice, whether a developer is happy to build an apartment building on council land and how that works needs to be really well addressed. And the scope, I see, needs to expand into other CBD areas of Glenorchy City. So Claremont, Moona, we need to consider the Northern Apartment Corridor specific area plan as well, which is fundamental in terms of providing more housing, not from council land, but from allowing other developers and other building owners to understand how they can activate more housing in their area. So I'm all about housing of all types. We have a housing commitment, and it doesn't talk about in there that we are a developer. It talks of us as a landowner and as a planning authority. We are not developers. So we need to make sure that that is understood in our housing of commitment. We play our role. We need to play our role as the local government. How we fit into this is really important, and we need to have some understanding of that. So for mine, the plan and the report is in a very infant stage, and I believe it can't be a small report. It should be an extensive report and taking the time to consider all the things that are going around in our city. So I'll send it back to the mover, which is the mayor.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy. It's good to hear that you want a big report. I think that sort of brings us back to the main point here. As elected officials, we have committed to operate on professional officer advice, not the other way around, where we tell the officers what we think with no qualifications whatsoever in planning or any other social determinants other than our gut feel. So this gives the council the opportunity to have an informed report, which we can workshop. More than happy for that. I think that's a great idea. But we have just recently commissioned work on increasing density in the city. We've talked about building up and increasing the heights of buildings. And, you know, I'm open to social, affordable and aspirational. I don't think we should be a city of social housing. We need to be aspirational as well. Alderman Alderton referred to us being very different to Hobart. I mean, let's wake up here. We're 15 minutes from the GPO. 15 minutes. A lot of the city's workers live or would like to live in Glenorchy because it's closer than Brighton or Granton or New Norfolk. This is about encouraging people to be able to move into the city and still have good jobs. As Alderman Kendall rightly pointed out, the research in this type of development is about people having less reliance on cars, so they don't need a car park. And we have levers there where in the city, for example, they're building hotels without any car parks or big buildings without car parks because they're encouraging people to build up that capacity for public transport. So I think that's another thing. Now, in my experience, 10 years in local government is nothing happens quickly. So you can bet if we need to have any planning changes or anything else, that's a good 6 months out, and it's another. Then it's got to go out to find developers. At no stage does this motion suggest we do the developing. I totally agree the council should stick to its lane and we are not developers. But we have been approached by Homes Tasmania, and I'm certain we'd be approached by Catholic Care and maybe even private developers to look at this option. So effectively they'd avoid having to pay for the land and they'd have a 99-year lease to provide homes for people in need. So I really hope that the council is open to big, bold, brave initiatives, and that we can ask the officers to bring back the information we need, which includes the plan you talked about, includes referring to our density that we supported, includes committing that to our statement of housing, how it fits with this council. And if they think it's a stupid idea, I'm sure they'll let us know. And if we don't like the report, we can ask for additional things, but if it's putting our foot, it's like leaving the shore to start the journey. So at some stage, I think, well, anyway, personally, I am absolutely committed to trying to make a difference to the housing crisis. And this is a way that I believe our council can do the most community good without affecting car parking to the public and without costing the council a cent. And it's all we're asking for is a simple report. And if along the journey we want a far more complex report, by all means we'll go down that path, but we'll at least be 1 month closer than if we kill this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we'll put the motion. All in favour, raise your hand. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
I'll hand the chair back.
Thank you. And we'll chair. We now have, oh, that's at the end of the.
Move to
Yes.
close council meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Alderman Slade. I'm sorry to members of the public, just warming up there in debate. Yes. Thank you for attending. Thank you for everyone online. I do hope we see you again for another riveting council meeting in a month's time. Thank you.